Assalamu alaikum. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today's tutorial is on how to make this two-piece abaya, and for this tutorial I'm going to be using 4 yards of fabric. I have my scissors, my taperule, and also a paper to take my measurements. So the measurements we'll be needing for this tutorial will be half back to wrist measurement, which is just a measurement from half of your back to your wrist, and then a back measurement or shoulder measurement, which for me is 15 inches, a bust measurement, which is 34 for me, then my waist measurement, which is 26, and then my hips measurement, which is 34. Also my gown length, which is 55, and that will be for the inner part of the abaya. While for the outer piece, I'll be subtracting 10 inches from my normal gown length, so I'll be using 45 inches for that. So that's all for my measurements. So the next thing I'm going to do is to divide my fabric into two. Then I have 2.5 inches on one side and then 1.5 inches for the other parts. So the 2.5 inches is going to be for the upper parts, and I folded that into two and then folded into four. So this is what I did. I'm going to assume that is my 2.5 inches parts, and that is the part I folded into two, and then this is the 16 inches long part of the fabric. So I folded the 2.5 inches into two, and then from the 60 inches part I folded into four. I hope you understand what I mean. So that's basically what I did. So after folding, I'm going to start inserting my measurements. The first thing I'm going to do is at the lower part there, I'm going to go up by 7 inches, which is just to give my abaya the curve that we mostly see in abayas, and I'll curve that to the other edge of the fabric. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take my neck measurement. So I'm going for the basic neckline, which is 3 inches by 3 inches. So I'll just go ahead and connect that. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take my shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 16 divided by 2, and that's 8 inches. So I'll just go ahead and mark that. And then I'm just confirming from that point if I have my 22 inches for my sleeve length, which I have. So the next thing I'm going to do is from that 8 inches, I'm going to come down by my armhole divided by 2, and I'm going to add 1 inch to it. My armhole divided by 2 is 8 inches, then plus 1, that's 9 inches. So I just came down by 9 inches. After which, I'm going to take my sleeve weight. For my sleeve, I went for 20 inches because I really wanted to write. So I took 20 inches at that point. And then from the 20 inches point, I'm going to connect to the 9 inches that I marked earlier to form like a diagonal line. So I'll just connect the 2 points together. So after marking that, the next thing I'm going to do is from the 9 inches point, I'm going to connect to the midpoint of the fabric there. So I'm going to form another diagonal line from the 9 inches to the midpoint of the fabric. So I'm just trying to make sure that the line is more prominent. And then I'm going to notch the sleeve part there so I can actually know where it falls. Then I'm going to just cut out the neckline. So basically, this is what we aim to achieve for the abaya piece. So we should have something like this after cutting out. So to achieve that, I'm just going to open up my fabric because I'm not going to cut both sides. So before opening up the fabric, I'm going to cut the curve line. And then after cutting that, I'm just going to open up the fabric to cut the diagonal lines. So I'll just trace out those lines. So after cutting out, we should have something like this. And that will be for our second sleeve side. And then for the other parts, we are going to have this, the regular abaya shape. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my round sleeve measurement, which is 8 inches, divided by 2, that's 4 inches, and then I'm going to add 1 inch to it, which will be like 5 inches. So I'm just marking that. So what you can actually do to this point is to stitch down by 1 inch, or to use like a button or a press button. So I decided to go for a press button for that part alone. So you can either stitch it or just use a button. The reason I decide on a button is because of the ease to just roll up to perform ablation. So I fixed that already. The next thing is to stitch the sleeve parts. So I'll just go ahead and stitch from the part to the armhole alone. Just from the part to the armhole. We are not stitching all the way down. We are just stitching to the armhole. So I'm done stitching, and we can actually see that I stitched just to the armhole. So this is what we have. So we should be getting something like this after the stitch. Then the next thing is just to hem the neckline. I'll just go ahead and hem the neckline with a bias tape, or just fold it and then hem. And for all the open ends, I just interlock it. You can decide to hem it also. So moving on to the inner piece, I have my fabric folded into two, the remaining fabric, and then I folded into four. So after folding into four, I'll go ahead and form my horizontal line. So the first one is 8 inches for my armhole, and I'm just going to mark that. After which I'm going to mark 15 inches for my waist length, and then 24 inches for my hip line. So I marked those three lines already, and then I'm going to start inserting my measurements. So the first one is my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches, and I'll just go ahead and mark that. So one thing we need to notice is that for all my measurements here, I'm going to be adding 5 inches to each one because I want it really wide. So for my armhole, I'm just going for my regular 8 inches, and then from that point, I'm going to connect to my armhole. Then for my bust, 34 divided by 4, and then I added extra 5 inches for ease and also for similar ones. Then for my waist, 26 divided by 4, and then I added 5 inches also. And I did the same thing to my hip, which is 34 divided by 4, and then I also added 5 inches extra ease and similar ones. So I'll just go ahead and form my armhole curve. And then I'm going to connect my bust to my waist and then to my hip. So I'm connecting my bust to my waist, and then I'll be connecting from my waist to my hip line. Then I'm just going to mark for my hip line to the last edge of the fabric. And then for my neckline, I'm using the basic neckline of 3 inches by 3 inches. And I'm just marking that. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take my shoulder slope. So I just come down from that point by 1 inch, and then I'm going to connect it to my neckline. I'll just go ahead and take my gown length, which is 55, and then I'm going to add 1 inch to it, which is similar ones, and that's 56 inches. So I'll just mark that at the bottom hem. So I'm just going to cut it out. So I'm tracing out the hip line, the waist, the bust, and then to the armhole. And finally, the neckline. So after opening it up, we should have something like this. So I'll just go ahead and stitch the shoulder and then the sides also. So I'm done with that. The next thing I'm going to do is to hem the neckline and also the armhole and hem the lower hem. So this is the final outcome of the inner piece, and then for the outer piece, that's the outcome. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. So this is the final outcome. We can actually see that for the inner piece, you can even wear it without the upper piece, and it really came out nice. So this is the upper piece, and then after putting it on, that's the final outcome for it. So if you have any questions for this tutorial, kindly drop your questions in the comment section, and I'll be sure to take a look at them. And for more videos like these, I have some abayas linked on the screen. Do well to check it out. Assalamu alaikum, and see you all in my next video, inshallah. Bye for now.